Good morning, everyone. Hello, Marigold. I'm going to wait a couple minutes for people to come on board here. So today, I've had a few very interesting beings coming by today. Sigmund Freud came by early this morning to talk about instinct and the body and the sexual urges and what these things really mean. And there's this other group of beings. These rishis keep showing up, and I keep ending up being drawn to them through different mediums. So the question is, what are we doing here and why? Right? What are we doing here and why? We're going to get into that in a moment. Just want to go through. Yes. Just trying to get my system to cooperate. Yeah, it's very fascinating. What are we doing here and why? What are we doing here and why? What are you doing there and why? Are you in that body, in the life experience that you're in? Why am I? And we can start out from a very simple place where, what are we? Freud, Plato, Aristotle, many of the leaders throughout time and history have tried to understand why we're here. And when Freud came in this morning, he said he had made an error in his perception of what really is going on in terms of consciousness. He understands differently now since he left his condition of matter. The error in his perception is associating that the individual is the body. He said was his biggest mistake, that the individual is not the body, that was an error in his realization, that the body, the individual is something completely unique and distinct, but in charge of and able to assert will over the body. The error in believing you are the body means you become subjective to what its natural tendencies are, which are not who you are. He's saying that's not who I am anymore. That's interesting to understand that, you look at what Freud talked about the instinctual urges, the sex urge, the creative urge, the urge to survive, to thrive, these urges that are hardwired into our body. He says the biggest mistake that people can make today is believing that the body is the sole means of one's sense of identity. This is the biggest perceptual error that people can make today, is that you are solely subjective to the conditions of the body. That is the biggest error in perception you can make. The body is your instrument. It's not who you are. The urges that the body comes with are simply mechanisms that it has used as you evolve through matter so that you would no longer be subjective to it. But you had to survive in matter long enough to awaken to what you are. You had to survive long enough in matter to awaken who you are. So I was asking him, I said, why then? Why is this sex urge such a big thing? Why is the self-preservation urge such a big thing? Why do we have all these instincts that were so important? And he said they were exclusively survival mechanisms until the individual becomes conscious and aware that they're separate and distinct from the body. They are subjective to the conditions of the body, and in order for the individual to survive beyond the identity of the body, it's important that the body be able to survive until that moment of awakening occurs. What he called the ego is the construct that is what you'd call the social being, the being that was made by the world. The id, the ID, the id, is that faculty of your awareness from which you can begin to orchestrate significant changes in what your body can do or be, and what your mind can think or not think. The problem that I had was in making the distinction between who I am and the thoughts in my mind and the urges of my body. I had not at that time made a clear enough distinction, although I had the intellectual understanding that thought and emotion and body were observable phenomena through my analysis of others and even of myself. But I had not formulated enough of a detachment from my own subjectivity to the very things I was studying in order to formulate an understanding of human existence that would have moved humanity forward in consciousness much further than what I had done did. Strictly from the perspective of existence, every living molecule asserts a life force. Certainly every human body exerts a life force, and these are observable phenomena. The desire to survive, their survival instinct, that desire to survive, to exist, to be, is essentially from what you are in essence. For you came into matter to assert your life, to no longer be subjective. And why are you here in that body now? Why are you here in that body now? To assert your life, your dominion over matter, to recognize the distinction between the two. Eventually you will discover that one is no longer necessary. In the process of analysis, I became entrapped. Yes. In the process of analysis, I became entrapped in the very thing that I was seeking to recognize, when the thing I was analyzing actually kept me from being aware of the thing that I was as the analyzer. And from the perspective of the analyzer, I was in a position to then, what some have called awaken from this game. But there are many people now in your time that are awakening now, and we are coming here in great numbers, those from your past, those from your future, those from your present, those from many other places that recognize that the push for liberation, the push for your liberation from matter, is of equal importance for us as it is for you. And he's saying much the same as when his own liberation, yes. He's saying, I tried to understand how I could become more free by analyzing these things of the body. And the very nature of my analysis kept me entrapped and fascinated with the very thing I was seeking to be free from. And do not misunderstand that freedom from the body does not mean you get rid of the body. Freedom from the body means that you recognize it is merely an instrument through which you are extending yourself, but is not the exclusive point of reference for what you are. In my conditions of analysis, I found myself stuck by the thing I was observing. As many of you are entrapped by the experiences of your senses and are unable to recognize that what you are is not the senses, that what you are is a facet of consciousness, not of unconsciousness, of consciousness. Yes, he says you'll get into the unconscious in a moment. A facet of consciousness that transcends the very thing that it is expressing through. To break your subjectivity to the senses exclusively is to open up yourself to these other realms, these other potentials of consciousness that exist and are equally as real as the physical world that you find yourself analyzing and trying to comprehend. You, as an awareness, as a being, as an id, you are able to transcend your subjectivity to matter and go on the most interesting of journeys beyond what you can observe with your 5 physical senses, but all of which is available to you now even while you are in your 5 physical senses. And this became a point of great fascination for me when I left my body. That old identity, I had at least established enough of a position of awareness in my own self that when my body ceased to function, my awareness continued, and I maintained the awareness of that which I am, exclusive of the body. And this became a fascinating area of study for me while not living in a physical form, to explore the different natures of what it is to be consciousness, to be awareness, to be liberated from the confines of the instincts and the senses. This has been my greatest journey, and I came to this one today to share some of these points with you so that you may turn your attention away from trying to understand and liberate yourself from the limiting posturings of your life into the limitless potential of your being. You are free as the awareness to make very precise adjustments in what it is you are aware of that is more inclusive than the material senses can be. I find it very exciting. But there is this thing now you call this ascension, where it is the upliftment, the unfoldment, the expansion of yourself beyond merely the subjective instrumentation of your physical apparatus. So he's been going on me. We've been having this thing going back and forth about our senses and our instincts, and that so many of us get caught up in believing that this is the exclusivity of who we are, but this is the instrument through which we recognize who we are. That was the fascinating thing that I got from this morning when he mentioned that his excitement is now in understanding and analyzing the perspective of consciousness from his position in awareness that's not localized to matter. And that's equally fascinating to me too. If you are not exclusively localized to that physical body, then what are you as an awareness? What are we as an awareness? Why did we create this body? Yes. So there's these other beings that have been here talking about that we actually created our own bodies. We actually created our own bodies to exist. To recognize that we are not subjected to them, that we are evolved to this place where we are in this. And we now need to learn that we are not this, to learn to surrender it in a way that does not violate the natural progression of the being of its nature, to come into a state of total love and acceptance for its nature, because you have established that you, in your nature, are limitless in the potential to love your life as what you are being. And that, just hearing them say that fascinates me, the idea that as an awareness, I brought myself here to be able to deliberately establish an awareness of myself as an energy, as a being, as a consciousness that works through time, space, and matter to gather experience and understanding of who and what I am. So why did I create this body? So I could become aware. So I could become aware of who I am as a consciousness. And that from the perspective of that awareness of consciousness, I can reorganize the quality of matter which is the establishing of who I am in time space. They yeah, the concept of lifetimes. There's only one life. You only live one life. And when I said, "What do you mean by that? Only live one life?" They laughed at me and they said, "You are always in existence. You cannot cease to exist as you are, as what you are. So you live only one life, but in the process of recognizing that you're living one life, you will go through many different experiences of separateness in order to come to the place of wholeness, of unity. But you will experience all these discomforts of separation until you are led inexorably back to the place where you recognize it's the unity of your consciousness as an inseparable fabric of being that will give you the fulfillment of what it is you are." And I find that really fascinating personally too, that whole concept that we have these physical forms, and we're here to use them to ennoble them with our energy, what we are, to bring what we are to it, rather than trying to get from, yes, Freud stepping in and saying, the problem with instincts is that people, in the satisfaction of their urges, their biological urges, in the satisfaction of them exclusively, you limit yourself then to the mechanism of biology rather than to the mechanism of consciousness. There's a very distinct difference in those two levels. Yeah. So I'm asking him now, why then, why is the sex urge so powerful? Why are these things so powerful? And he's saying those urges were merely to put you back in touch to your impetus for survival, not the body's, but to get captured specifically by the sensations of the body, diminishes your awareness of self as that which orchestrates the actions of the body. And he says he realized the only place he could find freedom was when he was aware that he was still aware outside of his body after it ceased to function. He says that's very rare for most people. Most people, if you have not cultivated enough self-awareness, as a self, then your body, if it ceases to function as a localized point of your identity, you don't have a reference point anymore. You have to cultivate a reference point that's non-physical awareness. And this is why meditation, is so important. All the yogis, all the rishis, all the gurus, all the ascended beings say meditation is key to establishing the awareness of what you are as a consciousness that is unique and distinct, an extension of through the form. You have become evolved through it, but you are not bound by it anymore at that point where you recognize what you are as an awareness. So I find this very fascinating, the idea that we came here, we created these forms that we exist in for the, excuse me, sorry, I got somebody coming in again, for the exclusive purpose of understanding that you are not the body, so that you can move on to other levels of learning that do not involve the senses. Somebody's saying in the background, you have greater sense in who you are than all your senses combined can give you. Wow. You have greater sense in who you are than all of your five senses, physical senses combined. And I think that's really important to understand, that you as an awareness, not localized to the physical body, have a greater expansiveness, a greater capability than you could possibly have when you're localized in it, when you're stuck in it. Very fascinating stuff, guys. I love it. Freud, Freud showing me the picture of him. He's saying the cigar, the silliest thing he ever did. And I'm asking him, why is it the silliest thing he ever did? And he's saying, it was the silliest thing I ever did because it kept me stuck. The attachment to it kept me stuck. It had nothing to do with my urges, my suckling urge, or any of that stuff. He said, I was stuck in matter. I was so intent on trying to know myself, I got so focused on matter, I missed the whole point until the form ceased to exist. Very fascinating. Very fascinating. Let's see what we have in the way of questions today. Hi, everybody. What a beautiful day. Uh, oh, I like that. Somebody saying, I have inspired the concept of International Joy Day on 11/11/20 to create a community of unity. Is this synchronized on the road to a billion strong plus? Wonderful. Thank you so much. That's a great idea. International Joy Day. I love that because joy is a choice. Joy is a choice. Just as fear is a choice, most people don't know fear is a choice. Most people don't know their choices. Most people are still waking up to realizing that fear is not something that we have to be bound by. That joy and fear are emotional energies that we can choose from. We can be attached to fear. Oh my God, I'm afraid of that thing, the snake. We can be attached to that. This is what, again, he's saying this is what he means. So many of us are encaptured in the sensation of the senses. We're unable to recognize our own creative potential as sentient beings. Yes. Yes, thank you. Thank you, thank you. So I'm going to take some questions anyway. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, learning to not be attached to our fears is extremely important. Learning not to be... Sorry, guys, I got kicked off for a second there. So I'm going to scroll back up. We're going to take some questions. Isn't that fascinating how that stuff happens? To not be attached to the senses and the emotions that the senses generate, because the emotions are based in pain or pleasure. And if you're attached to fear, then your fear is going to determine your behavior. If you're attached to anger, then your behavior is going to be determined by that energy. Once you realize that you are not the senses, that the emotions are mechanisms that you have available to you, you can start to liberate yourself from the subjectivity of matter. Yes. And there's a huge movement on this planet right now. All the gurus, all the great leaders that are in the spiritual community movement are realizing that this time is significant in that humanity, on a scale never before seen, has the opportunity to transcend matter as being the exclusive point for self-identification, right? And into recognizing that we are not matter, we are a consciousness organizing and altering and changing matter as a matter of choice. Thank you. Question from Lauren. How can this corruption be exposed in this world? They're laughing. They're saying, don't get attached to the corruption. Your time isn't about this world. Your time on this planet is to realize who you are and what you are. Again, yes, I'm going to go back to what Freud's been saying. In his research, he studied the instincts. He studied different facets of consciousness. He studied the concept of awareness and who is the identity, who is the individual. He tried to comprehend, and what he said just a little while ago is that in his attachment to try and comprehend himself through his experience of matter, or the senses, the instincts, by the very nature of studying just that, being focused on that, he stayed trapped in matter. He couldn't fully realize what he was here to bring forth, as he's doing today, where he's saying now it's do not get distracted by the fears, the instincts of the form, because you are greater than that. You are here to move beyond that. As these other beings are with me, again, I don't know who they are, but they're saying you are here to move beyond subjectivity to the body, not be entrapped by it any further. Many of you will remain so, and many of you are actually rising up to join us right now as awareness, as consciousness. Many of you are rising up. You must understand that the instrument, you can imbue the instrument, but not be subjected to it, but to imbue it with the quality, the fabric of what you are as a being, to ennoble it to its highest possible expression while you are existing in time-space, to its highest possible expression of yourself, not you being subjective to the highest expression of itself. Yes. In other words, if you're seeking to become highly visually acute, what you see, what you smell, what you touch, what you taste, what you hear with your senses is more important to you than what you are as a consciousness, then you'll be entrapped in the body as the self. And the body is not the self. The body is the instrument of self, right? Yeah, no, I understand. Okay. Great question from Suzanne. How do you surrender? The first step in that process is to recognize that in asserting your authority over your body to sit, to be still, to breathe, you begin to surrender it to you. It surrenders by your will. The process is gradual, but can be accelerated if you are mindful enough to keep your body and your mind subjugated to silence. And in the silence of your being, you will find the liberation of self from matter. This is the surrender. You cannot necessarily let go all at once, although we have seen some that have done this. But to first surrender your fear, to surrender your anger, to surrender your anxiousness, to surrender your anxieties, to let them go, you must learn to surrender the body to silence and to stillness. When you have trained your body and your mind thusly, then you will feel the freedom of surrender. For the surrender of which you speak leads to freedom. For you are not surrendering in the sense that you are giving up to something. You are surrendering in the sense that you are releasing yourself from something. And this is important to understand that distinction. Question from Blaine. As this is our truth, why is it not known by all in the human community? The simple answer to your question is that it is known to all in the spiritual nature of your being, but not recognized or indoctrinated from your awareness into your mind and body. This is an awareness that you must cultivate and then instill or instruct your body and your mind to become amenable to. The vibrations of limitless awareness of the endless expansion and freedom of your being, to allow yourself to experience that and to not have your mind or body to try and impose upon it what it has instinctually used as a mechanism for protecting itself, will liberate you to understand it for yourself. But it is known to all. It is known to all on the plane of true being. But this must be brought forth into form for you to recognize it while you are in it. For you have that body for a reason. You brought that body to this place, to this time for a reason. The process of remembering your body and your mind back to yourself, rejoining them to who you are, rather than you seeking to mold yourself into the conditions of what it has been up to this point in time. Yeah, sorry, I'm just having Master Jesus coming in. And he's saying, in the space of your heartbeat, in that space between the beginning and the end of your heartbeat, you may find in that small space the freedom that you seek to have us revealed to you will be revealed by your own choice. Wow, thank you, brother. So move your awareness into the space between your heartbeat. So you move your awareness into your heartbeat and become aware of how the heart's actually beating. There's a space, a place of consciousness between heartbeats, between that thump, 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 thump. There's a space between those beats that if you can rest your awareness in that space and be in that space, then what you are seeking to realize will come to pass. Yes. Thank you. Wow, thank you for that question, Blaine. All great questions today, guys. Hello, Anthony. He's asking, 2 days ago, I met someone online. We instantly connected and both feel we've known each other forever. Could you ask my higher self, guys, if we have had previous lives together? Of course, the first answer that comes back to that is you have always been together, all of you, in truth. There is no separation except by the definition of your five physical senses. If you choose to assign this increase in bliss at this connection with the other, if you choose to assign it exclusively to them, then you will miss the point of your joining. The point of your joining is not to get something from each other. The point of your joining is to remind each other of something about the other. In other words, they are to remind you of your awareness of non-separateness, as you are there to remind them about their awareness of non-separateness. In other words, you are whole and complete in what you are. And the energy of that, we suggest to you in your next communication with this one, even as you speak of this individual now, it brings to awareness your sense of joy. And it is that you are seeking to find. That is what you are fragmented from in your own consciousness. And when you align to that, the next step will become apparent for you. Wow, I like that. So basically, we attract beings into our lives to remind ourselves of things we need to learn and know about who we are. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Lynette. I appreciate that. Question from Drusilla. I'm still having trouble cultivating that awareness when I meditate. I go out without memory. How can I change this? This is a great question. And they laugh. They're laughing because they're not laughing at you. They're laughing because it's cute. For them, it's cute to realize you keep thinking you're unconscious, but you've actually become more conscious. It's just that your mind, your physical mind, your personality, your individual self cannot comprehend the infinite that you are. So when you move into that state of being, yes, we'll do that too. And when you move into that state of being, you move out of a finite identity. Okay, but the answer to your question specifically from them is simply this. Yes. 3-minute intervals. Okay, so they're saying you want to use a timer that goes off in 3-minute intervals, a very quiet little sound, just enough to keep your awareness present, but not enough to distract your senses. For it is in the dormancy of your senses that you find the awakening of yourself. But you need to use the form to establish your awareness of that which is evident in who you already are. But the distraction of your senses, your thoughts, is what keeps you from letting go completely to that which you are. Yes. Yes. For this one. So yeah, Drusilla, if you have a timer, set it at 3-minute intervals just to keep yourself in the present moment and out of thought. They're saying that it will take a couple of weeks of learning to keep the body awake and conscious, but the mind quiet and still. Keeping the body awake and conscious, but the mind quiet and still. They're saying it's through the quieting of your mind and was where your awareness expands. But what they're saying what happens to you is as your mind gets quieter and quieter, you're still attached to the thoughts. So as the thoughts get quieter and quieter, you try to stay with them. And they're saying, no, you have to expand your awareness out. And we do this in our, as you know, in the courses and classes that you've been a part of. Being able to expand your awareness beyond the body will really help too, from my perspective. Being able to expand your awareness beyond the body and become the space around your body. Just become aware as the awareness around the body, so that you're no longer keeping your localized identity in matter exclusive. You're now moving your identity outside, your awareness outside of the body. But wow, that's a great suggestion. Thank you for bringing that up, Drusilla. Wow, that's cool. Question from Patricia. What does Freud think about the Kinsey books and their effects on human sexuality since their publication? He's laughing. He's saying anything that seeks to objectify your awareness into body as being the exclusive point of where you will find your freedom and your enlightenment is an error. You will not find freedom through the subjectivity to what the body's instincts require of it. You will only find your liberation by not being attached to those things. But I do not think anything about those specific books, but I do think a lot about the concept of recognizing who I am and what I am not, and not being subjective to the one that does not ennoble my highest awareness of self. Cool. Great question. Margaret Strong is asking, have you a message for me, please? Wow. That, I don't know who this is, but they've come in. There's I think this is Gabriel. Says you have to take the ache from your heart, the ache from behind your heart. What is the ache? What is it really about? That it says it's a combination of fear based on an event that made you angry. You must release that, right? And again, in about a week and a half's time, on the weekend following this one, there's going to be an event that I'm going to be doing, a healing event called Healing with the Masters, where we're going to do I'm going to have 4 ascended masters: Master Jesus, Archangel Raphael, Saint Germain, and I don't know who the 4th one is at this point in time. They're going to do a healing process on each of the elements of our being: body, mind, soul, and emotional energy field, to actually cleanse them and restore yourself to what you are as a being in the present moment. And there'll be more on that coming out over the next week before we get to it. So bear in mind that that event's going to be coming up, not this weekend, the weekend following it. And again, I don't have the specifics on the time because this is something that they just brought through a couple of days ago. But they did say to present it right now, so I'm doing that. But yeah, being able to make that place. Hi, Katie. Scrolling down. Wow. You're welcome, Patricia. Does Master Jesus have a message for me on anything that he would like me to do for him? Does he want me to know anything and anything he would like to tell me? Wow. He's saying you need to release the uncertainty from your heart. Release the uncertainty from your heart. There is a place in this world, if you seek a guru, if you seek to be guided on your path, and there are many of you that are seeking this, then there are others that you may go to in other parts of this world that are not troubled by the issues of the world that you currently deal with. It is important. Yes, he's saying it's really important. There's an urgent need. He's saying you have an urgent need to awaken, and a lot of your questions are based in that urgent need to awaken. So you need to find a mentor that can take you through a one-on-one. You're looking for a guru is what you're looking for, and you can find one. And I keep getting the Middle East. Like if you want to go to some of the Eastern yogis, that's a place for you to go, Naveed. That you can find the kind of guidance that you're seeking. Yes, but uncertainty. Master Jesus is saying you need to release your uncertainty. Wow, that's cool. Thank you, Naveed. Yes, Joylene, that's a yes. There is lots of yes, but somebody saying be cautious though. Be cautious that when you're listening to messages from spiritual teachers and other beings, always do a check with yourself. Check in not with what your mind thinks, or the fascination of your senses, like something feels good, get very present and aware of, does this assist me in being more whole? Does this assist me in being more aware, more conscious, more present, more creative, more present? Like, do any teaching, any information that we receive should expand us and inspire us to be more of what we are while we are in these physical bodies. So yeah, be mindful. It's good to have gurus and teachers, and there are so many beings waking up right now. There's 1 billion people waking up right now, planet-wide, to understanding this ascension process, this enlightenment that's happening. Some call it the Great Awakening. Some are calling it the ascension process. It doesn't matter what you call it. There's a process that humanity, both individuals and as a collective, where we are making a transition from being localized to body, mind, self as the exclusive point of form and function for identity, to that place where form and function are determined by our consciousness, right? Where we can orchestrate matter very differently. You're welcome, Anthony. Question from XBT. Am I able to send instructions from my higher self to others via the light grid, for example, to have customers find my service? Absolutely. That's an absolute reality. You can do that anytime you want, anytime. It's a matter of feeling that vibration, feeling the vibration that you're deliberately able to transmit through time, space, and matter. This is so important. So important. Okay, I've got to check this out. Well, guys, we are complete for today, although my clock is behaving very funny. I love it. I love it. So listen, guys, have yourself a wonderful, a joy-filled day. And again, you'll hear more about the event that's coming up a week from this weekend. So Saturday or Sunday following next one. I don't know what day it's on. They have not told me yet. But you'll be the first ones to know on Friday when Shortcuts for the Soul returns. And much love to all of you. Thank you for your questions, your support. If you want to support this work, please go to my Patreon page, patreon.com/William Michael Forbes. You can also support this or offer donations through my PayPal link on my YouTube channel. And again, I appreciate your questions, your focus, your time, your energy, your patience. I wish all of you much love and a wonderful and a joyful day. Bye for now.